So lots of benefits for being in the HFUU. So without further ado, Drake Weiner.
Aloha. So I'm stoked to be here again. So I'd like to start class similar to how we started last time. So mahalo. Thanks for showing up today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being present. Thanks for taking that time to take breath and synchronize our vibrations so that we're all aligned towards space to receive knowledge. So I not only get a lot of inspiration from being in a space and place such as Hawaii, and just being here, but I also read a bit of this book. And so I'm going to read to you just a little bit before we get started here today. Help me center myself and a chance to read this morning. Got a lot of things together for you guys, so I'm stoked. But this chapter is called Aloha. Inside, the strength of simplicity and self-knowledge. Outside, the beauty of acceptance and gentleness. So this encourages you to cultivate quality of grace in your relationships and in your general way of being. In this way, you gain the power greater than any other to open a way through obstructions in your dealings with others. Good fortune is yours if you concentrate on bringing more grace to your thoughts and actions now. It is in the human nature to want to use forceful ways to try to get what we want from others and from life. Our egos encourage us to act aggressively, to speak boldly, to intimidate others, to buffalo our way through difficult situations. This false power can be momentarily satisfying to our ego, and temporary victories can be won in this way. But genuine power and lasting progress come from a different kind of strength altogether. They come from inner strength, which is characterized by steadfast devotion to the principles of humility, simplicity, equanimity, and acceptance. By gradually letting go of the vain, bullying energy, the ego, and accepting the quiet guidance of the higher power, one acquires the substance that makes ongoing good fortune a possibility. This is a time to relinquish self-important maneuvering. Instead, return to stillness and contemplate the inherent wisdom of the principles of the sage. By practicing quiet strength within and gentle acceptance without, you acquire the grace that dissolves all barriers.
What's the book?
Indeed.
It's a good one, no?
Yeah.
It's one of the oldest written books in history.
The Vedas?
So go look it up on Google. There'll be more. So I teach 6th grade at Kalana School, and I come into the classroom where I have all these kids who have been eating high fructose corn syrup, which powers their body, gives them lots of energy in their body, but your brain runs on glucose. So their brains are largely asleep. And so they're trying to navigate this world, trying to go through school, and their bodies are super excited, but their mind, the part that can bring them back to a centered spot, that can return them to their heart space, that can bring them back into their body, is absent. And so I start my classes reading this book to them. There's another hint. There's 64 different chapters. Then I take a little bell and I ring it, and we have quiet time. We just sit for 30 seconds to up to 2 minutes with them. You'd be surprised looking at all these little kids how difficult it is just to sit quiet for that long. But you'd be amazed how many students by the end of the year go into that space find that peace within them. And I like it because it also gives me a chance to recenter, reground myself in their presence. To be there and to be quiet with them. So if a kid decides to make noise, I let them. They get to stay after school and re-practice sitting quiet. So before I get into the business of what we're doing today, which is fermented plant juice, and then we got another solution to get the moss that's growing on trees, especially out here in the Puna region. Got a solution to take care of that. Before I get into those two things, she's eating a little bit. It's cool, we got fun.
Right on.
I was gonna talk a little bit more about the HFUU, just because I know you already talked about it, but I'm the president of the East Hawaii chapter, which used to cover from basically Volcano to Waipio Valley. Just recently, Steve has taken the initiative to start the Puna chapter. What the HFUU is the political organization for farmers. The Hawaii State Department of Agriculture. Does anyone know, with the governor saying we need to increase sustainable ag production, we need to get food secure, we need to do these things, does anybody know what the budget of the Department of Agriculture is, percentage-wise?
Probably 2%.
We got 2%. Any other guesses?
Zero.
Zero? That's a good guess.
0.1.
0.1. Any other guesses? Less than 0.5% of the state budget. Not even 1%. Less than 0.5%. So zero was, if you round that up, like you use a rounding function, it's zero. So we, as farmers, are coming together. We're almost extinct. So we're inviting people to eat. Lots of people eat. Everybody, I think it's almost fair to say, loves food. I'm pretty sure everyone's pretty much addicted to it. So focusing, that's why we as farmers are coming together as a political organization to bring issues like this into the general public's awareness and to then do something about it. When you go to the legislature and you say, we want something, they say, that's nice. When you go to the legislature and you say, we got 100,000 members across the state, now they're going to listen to you. Right now, we have about 1,000, a little bit more than, less than 2,000 for sure, across the state. There are, if each one of you guys joined, we would be 10% of the farmers' union. We'd get a 10% boost. Steve is taking his time to volunteer to put together these programs to bring you together. None of that stipulates the farmers' union has to have a cacao thing and do all this great stuff. He's doing that out of the love of his heart because he knows this. So you can go join. You can help us by putting your name on the list to say, look, we want to focus on agriculture. We want to increase that budget. Maybe 1%. Maybe we get 1%, right? That enables us to do research, fund farmers, get grants for things like building better educational facilities for this. All kinds of good stuff. So as the president of the East Hawaii chapter, I'm the official spokesman for it. So you heard it here, it's official. I'll move on from that. So I would like to address two things again before I really get into the meat, and those are, last time I was talking about the herbs from our website. How many people went and purchased, tried? How many people were unable to do it? Okay, so we are getting a running start on this. I'm working with Liz Hubble, and she is volunteering her time to fulfill the orders. I am volunteering my time to run the website, and so I appreciate everyone who did it, and those of you who got them, awesome. The shipments are on their way. Those of you who were unable to, I met with Liz yesterday, Tuesday, 2 days ago, and we fixed majority of the issues that were hang-ups for us. So I encourage you to try it again, see if it works. Let me know if it doesn't. Here to help out fix that with my volunteer time.
Can you explain again
Put
what
the website on the board again.
Yes, so what we're selling through the CGNF Hawaii Co-op is the 3 dry herbs you need to make one of our solutions, which I'll talk about today. The solution is called Oriental Herbal Nutrient with a TLA of OHM. Yeah, bringing it back. The second thing is the certification. So if you are taking this course, you showed up to Thursdays last week, you already know that you can get certified by attending all of these courses at level 1, which is an exposure to Korean natural farming. So if you were at last Thursday's class, you still want to sign up today, you can. I have a sheet here. I need your name, your address, and your email. And if it's $40 if you are not a CGNF Hawaii member, and it is $20 if you are. So, and I need to make sure that William Defoe is here. Yeah, thanks for showing up. Davina was, what you call Madeline? Madison. Madison, yeah, Madison. Axel. Axel not here? Okay, so he paid, but I'm gonna cross his name off the list. Chris. And your Lisa. Yeah, aloha. And Liam. Awesome. So check through, make sure you're showing up, make sure that's happening. It's a certificate of completion, so gotta be here to get it. And it's solid because this organization is really growing quite fast. I've been putting a fair amount of energy into it. I'm happy to be here teaching a level 1 course because it's, look at this turnout. I think they said this was the best turnout so far, so I couldn't do this without you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CGNF stands for Cho Global Natural Farming. Master Cho, it's a global network, and we do natural farming, which is kind of an interesting word.
I didn't know you were here, so how do I take that first class?
You gotta wait until the next round, unfortunately, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you were going to repeat this.
So I've been training a whole bunch of people to get to level 2 certification, which means that they are competent in all the methods that I'm teaching here. And I'm trying to get those folks to be teaching level 1 course. So, CGNF-Hawaii. Yeah. So we have our first person coming to finish their level 2 certification. He has the most detailed records. He's a nurse, and it's awesome. It was well above what I thought, and he is getting ready to prepare himself for education, and he lives in Kapoho. So you guys got an instructor if you want more right here in the Puna region. It's.org.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. 4G. See, Jenna?
You know I'm pregnant, right? And it's still over pregnant. His wife. With the arms.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll figure that out. I've been doing a lot. So what I wanted to get into to start today off with our FPJ is to talk about the farmer's heart. I realized this because when I was speaking with Jason, my level 2 graduate, his slide started with the farmer's heart. I was like, man, I didn't start with that. That's a really good idea. I started you with the solutions. Started getting practical right away. And you will connect into your heart if you continue to do this practice, because you are tuning yourself in to nature, and nature speaks to our hearts. Our mind has all kinds of crazy ideas. We think, oh, I'm going to juice that plant and get more. But if you tune in as a natural farmer, you realize, I'm going to have a relationship with this plant. I'm going to get as much as it wants to give me, as much as I give it, and we're going to have a relationship. And that comes from the heart. Gotta love that plant. People sometimes ask me, can natural farming scale? There's certain farmers that are growing 600 acres. There are certain farmers that grow 1 or 2, or what is it, 7 plants. But they love those plants. So can natural farming scale? How big is your heart? If you are growing more plants than you can love, adjust your scale. Make sure you can love each and every one of them. Don't have to go visit it every day. Plants are pretty autonomous. But you still have to love them. Well, you don't have to. I mean, but you will. So, I think that's a good starting point for today. Strength, or simplicity inside, strength outside. I think that's what I was talking about. Grace, love, aloha. So this is part of a 6 series. The first one we did solutions. Today we're doing fermented plant juice. The next course we'll be doing microorganisms. So today you'll get a tiny preview of the microorganisms as we treat for the moss out on our plants out here. The following class we will be doing the nutrient cycle in depth. The following class we will be doing a little bit of planting, going over some natural farming methods. How do we prepare the soil? How do we actually put the plant in the ground? Why is it different than any other system you've probably engaged in? And the final class is livestock, and I may throw some other goodies in there each time. Like today I wasn't necessarily planning on doing the moss one, but I saw that as an issue here. I realize it's an issue we all have, so I would like to address that and give you guys what you need. The last class on livestock. There's someone up here is keeping chickens. How many people keep chickens? Will.
Will.
Okay. How many people keep pigs? How many people have cattle? Only farmer with all three.
What about goats?
Rabbits, goats, all these things, sheep, will be addressed. Primarily in Korea, they grow chickens, pigs, and cows, all indoors. So those are the three things we have a lot of info from Master Choan and that I've been studying. So let's get started on fermented plant juice. And Steve told me that we should have a projector next time. I probably should. I do have slides for all this stuff and could do it that way. But I think it's a little bit more intimate this way to get it together. So let's see here if I can. It's going to fall if I do it up there. So I'm going to write it and put it up there. So what I'm going to talk about is fermented So fermented plant juice. This is common in our TLA, which, who can remind me what TLA means? Three-letter acronym, right? FPJ. So I was talking about this last time. We actually went over it a fair amount in terms of why use FPJ, what is it good for. And today we're going to go a little bit more in depth, and I'm going to show you how to make this. Every farm has the resources you need to make FPJ. You probably need to get the sugar, but you already, any problem plant you have, something's taking over your farm, that now becomes a resource for you with this recipe. So, like I was saying last time, this is called fermented plant juice. This is the name of how it's created. You ferment plant material to get the juice. Fermented plant juice. When I name it, and I reference it in a lot of my material, I reference it by how it's used, so I tend to call it the food. In a certain sense, not completely mapped across, this becomes your fertilizer. But it's not complete this way. Your fertilizer is actually what we talked about last class, which is your maintenance solution. And that is your fertilizer equivalent. But a lot of people think they gotta fertilize the plants. That's what this component of the food becomes. I may have mentioned last class, I think I did because I made the joke about Hippocrates, right? It is also a medicine. So last class I talked about the medicine being the oriental herbal nutrient, and that is a medicine. Specifically, it's a tincture of beneficial herbs. But this fermented plant juice is a medicine because it's the purest way you can eat food. Imagine So there's a documentary called In Search of Balance. And there's this guy, Michael Greger, in there. Anyone heard of Michael Greger? He started a thing called nutritionfacts.org. Nutrition Facts, he talks a lot about our diet. And what he says in that documentary is, if you could put broccoli, the nutritional value of broccoli in a pill, you would be a billionaire. Well, Michael Greger, here's your solution. I can put the nutritional value of broccoli in a pill. If I wanted to. I'm going to drink a little bit more than that. I'm going to drink it. But the idea that you can get the essence of broccoli, all the good things that are in broccoli, right? I mean, there's other plants that may be even better. We'll just use broccoli as this example. But you know how good it is. You eat it, it tastes good, it feels good, but we steam it, loses nutritional value. We ship it thousands of miles, loses nutritional value. We combine it with other foods that we probably shouldn't be eating at the same time with it, loses nutritional value. All these things are affecting our health and the way we're metabolizing this to regenerate our cells and continue to live. What fermented plant juice gives us is a way to get that nutrition in its pure form. There is no heat applied to get this. The only heat you get is ambient temperatures of microbes making love. There is no pressure involved. The only pressure we have is osmotic pressure, which does not destroy the cell wall. It moves juice through the cell wall. It's like going in through a window versus knocking the wall down to get things. And it comes in a assimilable form, meaning it's pre-digested. You have to do zero digestion for this to immediately enter your cells. The best part is, I can make fermented plant juice from almost any plant. In fact, I can make it from any plant. Would I eat it after? I don't know. So, I started today when I got here. I set up a little bit, but I also took just a small little perimeter right around here to see what was available for making fermented plant juice. I have hono grass. Who has hono grass? Who wants to look at it as a resource? I have this fern. Who has this fern? Who wants to look at this as a resource? I have Perennial Peanut. You should get, if you don't have it, get it. Ask Steve if you can have a little bit, start planting it and grow it out. This is great, great ground cover. Don't put it in your garden beds, it'll kind of take over things, but plant it on your pathways, in your yard. You won't have to mow anymore once you establish this. Who has this vine? I don't know. It was strangling something over there.
Yeah.
Who has sweet potato? And so these are all plant green material. I can also make fermented plant juice out of flowers. This one happens to be from that trumpet plant, and it's probably not your best idea because that one is like a nightshade, and like if you sit under this and smell it, you're like Rip Van Winkle kind of. Yeah, that one. But you can make it from flowers. You can also make it from fruit. So,
You need fresh fruit?
I will go over the whole method on that. I'm just explaining the different things. This is versatile. So who knows the medicinal value of hono grass?
Bee stings.
These things, yep. But nutritional content.
Oh,
Lucky for us, the university did a study on eating hono grass. And they made a recipe book where you throw this in your salads, you do all kinds of things. And they studied the nutritional value. The College of Pharmacy put this out because they said, hey look, we need to be eating nutritional, locally available greens that aren't, your lettuce, not that much nutrition. Hono grass, a lot. Because this is wild. This hasn't been cultivated for leafy greens and shelf stability and all these other things that we've hybridized our thing. When you eat wild, they're full of nutrition. When you eat domesticated stuff, not so much. There's still nutrition, but not so much. You can find out the nutrition of this. Who knows the nutritional value of this fern? Probably nobody. But do you think there's nutrition in this fern?
There is in bracken fern, so why wouldn't there be in that?
Right? What about that palm back there? Has anyone studied the human nutrition consumption value of that palm? Because no one's ever put a palm with heart of palm salad, right? You just pick out the heart of palm and be like, the rest of that, yeah, not for me. We don't have the digestive system to eat that palm. We may not have the digestive system to eat this fern. We might. You could eat it. Yeah, you could cook it a few different ways. But you sauteed it. Have you increased the nutritional content or decreased it by adding heat?
Decreased it by adding heat.
So the only way we could have eaten this plant before today was by cooking it, which wouldn't give us its full benefit. That's why I'm here to show you how to make medicine out of anything. That palm tree, this fern, this thing that we know already. You could go ferment evergreens. Those trees that don't die in the winter. Well, here they don't anyway, but conifers, right? Those things, to be able to hold their greenness through the winter, do you think they're strong, vital, robust plants? Right. If we could get their mana, their blood, their goodness, and consume it, do you think it would have benefit for us? There are all kinds of plants that have medicinal value that you can get the nutrition out of by making this recipe. Have I sold you yet?
Yeah.
You guys are going to go home and be like, oh, that's a research, I'm going to eat that. You guys got to taste it last week. It's delicious. Your body wants that. So it's easy to now take your medicine. Plus, it's really inexpensive. So, what I did today was I went out to my mom's greenhouse and I selected the comfrey plant as my demonstration plant. The reason I did that is I had literally like 3 minutes to grab a sickle and to cut it and to put it into here. If I went out to grab hono grass, it would have taken me much longer to gather. The reason, or the best way, the reason it would have taken me longer is because the best part of the plant is up here at the tips. So these upper leaves are different than these lower leaves. These upper leaves are not participating in photosynthesis. These upper leaves are still growing. They're what you call a sink, meaning they are using energy from the plant to grow. They're sinking energy into them. These leaves down here are sources, meaning they are turning sunlight into sugar, recharging the battery of the plant, enabling it to have energy to put into its sink so it can continue to grow. This part of the plant is softer, more pliable, more bendy. This part's stiffer, harder, woodier. As you get into the level where they can absorb sunlight, the sun is gnarly. You stay out in the sun all day, you get sunburnt, right? They get harder to resist the sun so they can do that function of absorbing energy. This part is still young and tender, just like a baby, more pliable, and full of nutrition. I don't know, don't ferment your babies. So, the part of the plant I want to gather, I gathered this whole bit to show you. If I was doing this for optimal nutrition, I wanted to make the best medicine. I wanted to get all the benefits from this plant. What I would do is go out before the sun has risen, just when it's light but the sun isn't above the surface yet, and I would go pluck as many of these tips as I can. Why before the sun has risen? Once the sun rises, this plant naturally sucks the material, the nice growth hormones, into this part that's more robust and can handle the harsh sunlight. If it let those volatile, nice hormones and enzymes stay up here, they would all cook out during the day. So if I gather this midday, there's going to be next to none of the good stuff that I want. There'll be things in there, but the hormones and the enzymes and the things that make this plant so delicious and beneficial have receded into the plant. So I go right in the morning. Why in the morning? Because plants grow overnight. If you watch them, they grow, majority happens at night. I think peak is like 2 to 4 in the morning. But at 2 to 4 in the morning, it's too dark for you to see what you're gathering. So go when the sun's rising. If you were to gather hono, I recommend you go out with a decent amount of friends to do this. Work together, because this will really shrink down. I have to gather a fair amount of material in order for it to make a decent amount of quantity for me, because it shrinks down. Just like when you cook greens, they cook down, they shrink. We're going to be doing a similar thing that you'll see here. So you have to gather a fair amount, working together with your friends to gather enough stuff.
What you said about losing the nutrients value, is that all plants or most plants?
So the question was, the plants losing their nutritional value during the day. That is true about all plants. That's why when you go to harvest fruit, you want to do it in the morning. You go out to harvest your corn, do it in the morning. It's going to be sweeter than it is if you harvest it midday. You'll find a lot of these things are true. Yes?
Does the shade affect, if they're in the forest and they're not getting any sun, would you be able to harvest them later in the day?
No. So the question is, if they were in the shade, could you harvest them later in the day? The basic answer is no. The more complex answer is yes. So, like I was saying last class, your most important thing with all of this, when I was talking about what time to spray, the most important time is when you can. The second most important time is in the afternoon. So similar on this. If you can't do it in the morning, just realize you are not getting those other aspects. So if I go to eat a really nutritious food, awesome. I'm gonna pick it in the morning. If I just want to eat something, like a hamburger because I'm hungry and I want to just, go and, or yeah, hamburger is not the best choice. A veggie burger, taro burger, sweet cane cafe smoothie. Well, those are actually good. I just want to eat something during the day so I'm not hungry anymore. I don't care about the nutritional value. I'm hungry. I just want to eat so I'm not hungry and so I can keep going. That's more equivalent to grabbing this plant material midday. It's more of just like a snack of food, something to eat, but it's not the medicinal quality that you would gather in the morning. So on this sweet potato, I have all this nice sweet potato vine. Again, which part am I going to take? And you can kind of see it on this sweet potato. As it starts to become more of a source, it changes in color. It's actually a bit lighter out here at the tip. So I pluck probably about right here and gather my tip. So if you're doing it for high quality medicine, this is what you want to do. If you're doing it for just random whatever, I'm hungry food, you don't, like I started off today, it was about the heart, and you're like, well, I can compromise this part of my heart. Then go gather the whole plant, make it easy, and do it. But realize what the trade-off you're making. When my friend Chris is doing something for 600 acres, what he does is he goes out in the morning and harvests banana flowers early in the morning. He cuts those. Why banana flowers? Because he really cares about the flowering stage, which I'll get into. And a banana flower is huge and big. It's the equivalent of like 400 hono grass tips. One banana flower. One machete. Now you got this whole thing. Now you can chop it up and then ferment.
Is it important to use just a single plant source in your ferment?
Good question. Is it important to use just a single plant source for your ferment? Yes. I would not just take all these things and mix them together and make a fermented plant juice. The reason for that is that I've gathered this comfrey this morning. It was in a greenhouse, so I didn't have to worry about the rain this morning. And I didn't wash it off. All the microbes that are on the surface of this plant are still there. The yeast, whatever microbes, bacteria, the fungus that are on there are there. They like this plant. In fact, some of them are waiting for the plant to die so that they can eat, and they're cleaning it. Just like you're cleaving skin cells all the time, you got little microbes on you eating those up. Same with this plant. It's cleaving cells, the microbes that are eating them. So, I didn't wash off the microbes. When I go to make my fermented plant juice, those microbes will still be there. This microbial set is different than this microbial set. They got different microbes. If I put these two together, now I've mixed the microbes in my plant material. These microbes start trying to digest this, and these microbes start trying to digest this, and they get gas and they fart and they're like, I'm not used to eating this, why'd you do that? So I stick with its own source. I want 100% clean digestion to happen in the fermentation step of making my fermented plant juice.
In the off chance,
I can't hear you, can you speak up?
in the off chance that when you collect it, there might be some slime on it, if you still consume it later after it's fermented?
Yes. So slug slime, if you read about rat lung is a nematode. The nematode will be destroyed by the osmotic pressure in this next step. It's not, so what I'm going to do here is start this recipe a little bit here to show you. So I got all this stuff from my comfrey plant, and I really didn't take very much time to be discriminating this morning, so I picked all kinds of different leaves. What I want to do is get rid of the leaves that look like this. I don't want to put that in there. It's not, it even has a slug on it. What I want to be using is the nice leaves here, these guys. So, gather my plant material, kind of look, I think this actually came from a little better spot. I gather my plant material right before the sun's rising. Now the sun's starting to rise, and depends on the different plant material what you got at the different time. In this case here with the comfrey, what I want to do is make this a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to take it and reduce its size. I'm not shredding it. My goal is not to pulverize it or do anything weird like that. I'm just making it easier to work with. Now, if I was working with something like a banana, this is an unripe banana, what I would do is take a knife and cut it into pieces. I don't want to get banana sap all over their table. I got a rag here. Cut it into pieces, and you can get real smart about how you do this. It doesn't take a whole bunch of time for you. But pieces like this. Yeah. So, you know, put a whole bunch of bananas, slice it, get real smart about how you do it. Don't do it with your own pocket knife, you know. But you make the stuff manageable size. The next step, everyone got the paper? You guys are already ahead of me. Is to add 1/3 to a half of the amount of weight of sugar. Why that much? Well, I'm going to show you, and I've been doing this so much, I'm going to eyeball it. But the first time you do it, you may want to get out a scale and weigh it. But I'll eyeball it and tell you how I know I got enough and what's the right amount. So, I'm going to take brown sugar. I bought a 50-pound bag from Hawaii, or Kilo Rice Mill. It cost me $50. This will make a ton of fermented plant juice. Basically, one 50-pound bag will make you all of your natural farming ingredients. So if you go make that investment for 50 pounds, it'll make your whole thing for your farm for, depends on your size, but for quite a while. Take dark brown sugar, golden brown sugar, either way, brown sugar, cane sugar, not beet sugar, cane sugar. There's a big difference between cane sugar and beet sugar. If it doesn't say cane sugar on it, it's probably beet sugar. They would definitely advertise the fact that it's cane sugar. Costs more to produce, but it's so much better for you and everyone in our whole planet. The fact that things are sweet does not necessarily mean they're sugars.
Where do you get that from?
Kilo Rice Mill.
So you would use basic cane sugar, brown cane sugar.
That's what it is. So I just put a little bit on the top here to get it started. Just a little dusting on here. If I was doing this and I didn't know what I was doing, I would weigh it out. Now that my material's been shredded the right amount, and I put a dusting of sugar on it, now what I'm doing is I am starting to massage it. I'm not trying to deep tissue massage this. I am trying to, more than anything, toss my salad. It's funny the things that we put into our memes and our minds. So as I sit here tossing my salad in front of you, what I am doing is I am coating my plant material in sugar. See how it's starting to stick? It's also nice if you do it in the morning because there's a little dew on it. It's going to be a little moist. It's going to help the sugar stick a little better. But I am coating this stuff on. I continue to do this for just a minute or so, and a certain phenomenon is going to occur. You can do this in a cement mixer if you have a big farm. You'll find if you do this for a big farm with your own hands, your hands will hurt like hell at the end of the day because the sugar will start sucking the juices out of you.
How long can your plant material sit before you have to use it?
Oh, about 2 hours, 4 hours at the most. You want to do it almost immediately. The longer you let it sit, the more the plant hormones and enzymes in these things are very fragile. And the longer they sit, they're going to start to decay. So if you're really worried about medicinal value, you want to do it immediately. So what phenomenon is occurring?
Absorption. Maturation.
It's wilting. It's extracting.
Moisture and stuff out of the leaf.
Yep, pulling the moisture out, osmotic pressure. In a very weird sense, I am cooking right now. Without heat, without pressure, because there's actually pressure right now. The osmotic reaction is creating osmotic pressure against the leaf, and it is starting to suck the juice out. It's starting to look wilted as if I was cooking it. It is cooking in a certain sense. Now as it starts to get more moist, I'm good right now. I'm good. I noticed that phenomenon happening. It's starting to reduce. I got enough sugar so that every part of my plant material is completely covered in sugar. You can see it kind of glistening if you're up close. I don't have any big chunks of sugar left over. Like here, I could do a little bit better of a job. This could get a little bit more. But it all depends on what you are doing, how much heart you want to put into this. Looking at it here, actually, where I got a little spots that are not covered in sugar, I could add a little bit more sugar because I've eaten it all up in the bowl. There's none left at the bottom, and I still have some spots that are a little bit underdone. So I'm going to add a little bit more sugar, and I kind of did this on purpose to show you guys kind of a little what too little is, and then you'll obviously know when it's too much. So I'm just going to add a little bit more sugar, toss my salad a bit more, and just turn it so it absorbs. Since it's wet, it's absorbing a lot faster. It's getting on there, and I'm good to go. And I brought this nice clear bowl so you guys can see, everyone can see what's the phenomenon happening here. Notice my material's way less. Now, the key is to take a clean jar or a bucket, preferably food grade, or some sort of vessel, and to take this material and to pack it into this jar. So what I've done is I've started the osmotic pressure coming across, the juices are starting to come out, but this isn't just called plant juice, this is called fermented plant juice. So the second phenomenon, I'll get juice, watch. By the end of the day, this jar will be full of juice. But that's not the juice I want. The juice I want has to be fermented first. So I'm going to pack it into this jar so that the fermentation step can occur. Now, one of your best vessels to use is actually a clay pot. It's breathable, that has air exchange. This glass does not exchange air through the side, but I am not in a position to import a clay pot at this time, and if anyone's a potter and wants to make me one, let me know.
Do you have price? No. No, clay pots are really expensive here. Shipping costs, trying to bring them here without breaking them, all kinds of issues that we got. But everywhere you go in Korea, it's a family heirloom. It's passed down from generation to generation. They all make kimchi in them. And this is easy, good way to do it. So notice, I'm packing it in.
Is that without a glaze or with a glaze?
I don't know. I had an answer to that question. It's definitely in a Facebook group. Both. I eat this a lot. Last time I was here, I was drinking the maintenance solution, but today I forgot water, so. So you might have a little extra sugar on your hand. That's cool. Don't worry about it.
Look off.
But this here is not enough. For ideal fermentation to occur, I need to fill the jar up to 2/3. Why 2/3? Because 2/3 approximates the golden ratio. Do unto others as you have others do unto you. Which means the whole is to the big as the small is to the big. Right? Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. It's the golden ratio. It is a natural principle that is true in our universe. You can look at the human body. You can say I have one core. Then I have one bone in my arm. Then I got 2 bones in my arm. Then I got 3. And then I got 5. If I continued that out, my next number would be 8 and so forth, 13, to go through the golden ratio. There's an interesting phenomenon that occurs at 2/3 for us, that there's actually infinity within the unit. And so you're bringing all these vital energies from other dimensions into this. So if I don't hit my 2/3 ratio, I won't get those principles occurring for me. So, I'm going to make a bit more to fill up my jar to 2/3. Another thing I've noticed is it's extremely hard for humans, us, to approximate 2/3. Because it actually exists in a different dimension. Right? You can't actually have a third of something. Like, show me something you divided into 3. Yeah, right.
Circle.
Try it. You'll find that there is pi r squared, and that pi is an undefined number that does not exist in this dimension.
Yeah, but in a circle, you got an angular dimension of 360, which is divided just visible by 3.
You may be onto something. So the first time I just did a little bit, the second time I'm going to do enough.
The photograph, do you use the stems then, or do you just whack up the leaves?
No grass, I'm going to use this part of it ideally.
Have you ever tried to do honey as the sugar component?
So this question comes up a lot about substitutions. Right here I'm teaching you the way I learned, the way that I know works. Can you use honey? No. It has lactobacillus in it, all kinds of other things. It inhibits fermentation in this sense. You can make meat out of it. But also honey has a higher market price. Sell your honey, buy brown sugar.
Yeah, that'd be pretty pricey.
So,
What if you had if you have sugar canes on?
You cannot use sugarcane juice because there's too much moisture in it. It would not create the osmotic pressure that brown sugar does, and I actually put a little too much in here because I can't stir it very well. And plus there's a gross leaf.
So by the time you use it or drink it, is the sugar all eaten up from the process, or is it still sugary?
I'll get to that. Thanks. That's a good question. I'll get to that though. So, if I cannot see 2/3 unless I'm a circle and I'm dividing by some weird unit, I happen to believe that unit's 1 and you have some different issues. So I think it all starts with unity, which in essence is nothing. But assuming you got some of that together, the easiest way to ask yourself, did I hit 2/3? I should actually probably do this with you guys. It's a fun project. I like teaching. Am I good yet? Can I pack it in? Oh, it's a gross leaf.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Do I need more sugar?
Yeah.
Not yet. Should I massage it harder to try to buffalo my way out of this?
No.
If you cut out the banana leaf or a flower, will it inhibit the growth of the rat?
Nope. Usually people commercially will cut the. So the question was, if I cut the banana flower, am I going to get less bananas? If you cut it off early, yes, but if once the fruit's set and it's already there, in fact, commercial operations cut it off because they believe it steals nutrition from the plant.
Do you believe that?
It's the wrong tip, right?
I am a scientist, and I don't have empirical evidence to back that up. Do I need more sugar?
No.
Nah, I hit it right on the head right this time. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've done this a whole bunch. The first time I intentionally added too little sugar just to show you guys. If I continue to massage this, it's just going to get more and more goopy and be harder to actually put in this jar. So why make it harder for myself? Why not just do it right now? So look, it's already dripping, it's already juicy, that osmotic pressure is happening. I'm cooking it without heat, without pressure, although there is osmotic pressure, right?
Is that how it works with lime juice and fish?
Yeah, and also if you ever made sauerkraut, this is sauerkraut, except for you're doing it with sugar instead of salt. Now, if I had a plant that was like sweet potato is not very juicy. This comfrey's pretty darn juicy. This phenomenon you're seeing here with the comfrey, I use this one as a demonstration because it's very obvious. A sweet potato, not as obvious. You will start to get some juice come out, but it won't be as drippy and as juicy as this one. You can add a pinch of salt to increase your osmotic pressure. You don't want to add too much salt because you'll inhibit the next stage of fermentation, but you can add a pinch of salt to get a little bit more juice out of it.
But you don't have to add.
You don't have to, but you won't render as much in your end product.
Is there a salt preference that you recommend?
Sea salt.
Sea salt.
Yep. So I'm trying to figure this out here of how, am I at 2/3? Am I at 2/3, right? The question going through my head, am I at 2/3? But I can't really tell. 2/3 is really hard to approximate for human beings. So I came up with this simple equation for me. Is this jar more than half full?
Yes.
Is it less than 3/4? And you guys can answer both those questions really easily, right? Because quarters and halves and things for humans, super easy. Thirds, really difficult. If you are between, you can answer yes to both those questions. You can bet that you're probably close to the third, the 2/3. So a little algebra lesson. Look how much juice is already coming out. Can you see the juice? It's already getting juicy. You're not going to see this phenomenon with every plant, but comfrey you will. Now the juice is not ready yet. I can't just take this juice out because it hasn't been made assimilable. It's not plant digestible. If I drink it, I'm going to still have to digest it in my stomach. It's not the medicine that I want yet. So what I do is I take this, clean my hands off a little bit. Usually what I do is I have a bucket of water and I dip my hands in that bucket, clean it off, and then toss that bucket into my garden after, so I'm not just like putting sugar on a paper towel that came from a tree. Sorry. It should have been hemp, right? And that's as clean as they're going to get for now. I'm cool with that. Now I need to do the next part of this, which is to either take a t-shirt, cloth, in this case I'm going to use a paper towel. All those things, what do they have in common? Breathable. Breathable, right? I didn't use a piece of plastic, or I didn't seal it with a metal lid. Little rubber band, put it on, and one of the most important things, wait for it, the date and what it is. Humphrey FPJ, June 29th, 2017. I date and label everything. Eventually, that's why I brought masking tape with me. I'll write it on the jar and have this. But now I'm set. I got it 2/3. What's going to happen is these microbes that were on the plant material that I didn't rinse off are going to start digesting this juice. They're going to use some of that sugar that I added in here as a fuel to help them in this metabolization process. I'm going to kind of kickstart them. That's why I use the sugar. They are then going to start creating some certain gases that are going to come up to this breathable lid. And I've created a macrocosm, microcosm, 2/3 golden ratio. And if you start talking to Master Cho, he will tell you about how there's certain heats and different things that get really advanced into what's happening here. But for now, we know we've created this. The microbes are going to create certain gases that they're going to use to communicate with each other. You can basically think of them as each microbe farts once a minute, and the other microbes are sniffing at it. They're like, oh, there's only one guy, he's over there. All of a sudden they start smelling a whole bunch of farts. They're like, man, there's a bunch of people around me. And so that's how they communicate with each other. Thankfully, we've evolved some more systems that I don't have to communicate with you guys that way. And you're not communicating with me that way.
If you're using a plant that's not as juicy right away, like, would you just let it be until it gets, like, really juicy, or do you want it to get really juicy before you cover it, and you put salt on it, right? Is that?
So the question is, if you're using a plant that's not as juicy, do you wait to see the juice come out? And so you saw this cooking step, the step I did in this bowl where I was cooking in it by turning it. Just keep turning it until you see a little bit of the juice start to emerge. You'll notice because the sugar will start to really stick to it. And once you see that phenomenon happening, then pack it in a jar. If you're turning it for like more than 5 minutes kind of thing, add a little bit of salt if you're not seeing any juice. Because you need to increase that osmotic pressure, and if it's not coming out in 5 minutes, you know, add some salt.
So we're talking literal pinch.
Yeah, like here, I've been waiting all week to do this actually.
I'm glad I asked.
So I don't know, I go on the internet a lot, I love it. And I saw there's like a meme where you like, add a pinch of salt. Yeah. So I really wanted to do that. Okay, so question.
It's not a question, just a comment. We really emphasize the need to gather material that's not wet. Like for example, this morning we got rain, and like you said, in the greenhouse it was okay because it was dry. But if it had been wet, you can't gather that day.
Yep. And so if it's raining and your stuff is completely soaked, it's not a good day to gather because your microbes will have been washed off your plant. So don't go out in the pouring rain, think you're going to gather and do it. Another suggestion on time is the best time to gather this stuff is right after the full moon. Right after the full moon in traditional Hawaiian moon calendar, you have kulu, which means to fall, which the moon starts to fade away. Then you have the la'au days. La'au means plant. That's the time the kahuna la'au traditionally gathered his medicinal plants. Why? Because in the morning, right after the full moon, you will notice the sun is rising, the sun's on the horizon, the moon's on the horizon. You will notice there's a huge high tide during this time in the morning. Go to the beach, the tide's going to be as high as it is the entire time right then in the morning. All that stuff is drawing those juices. If it's raising the ocean up, which the ocean's heavy, you ever try to lift a couple gallons of seawater? And it's lifting that water up to come up, it's doing the same thing in your plant. It's drawing all these juices up. Both those bodies are drawing it up. Right after the full moon is the best time to gather for the month. You don't want to be making this every week. You want to make enough so that it'll last you at least 6 months to a year. Because if you're always taking your time making inputs, you're not farming. So think about it. How much am I going to need? Gather enough for your farm so you can make a 6 month to a year supply one time. Get your friends together, gather all the stuff, do a really good job, and do it once in a while. If you're going to make it for medicine, you might want to do it more often for smaller batches, but for big farm usage, do it one time. Question?
How do you actually tell how much you need? Just multiply what you're gonna, how much you're gonna use with water and how much you have.
So I got those numbers. I'll give the application at the end of this. So question here.
You said don't get if it's been raining. But what about like dew in the morning?
Dew is totally fine. Yeah. Question about?
Two questions. When I made mine, I remember reading that, I don't remember because I did this 2 years ago. So first question, are they still good? Second question is, I remember reading that adding sugar after the fact preserves them?
Yep. So thanks.
After the fact, not during the osmosis. After
So good question. I'll address both those questions right now. Okay, so I got this. I added between half to a third of my weight by sugar to get this osmotic pressure to happen. Now I got this in here. Now I'm gonna wait about 3 days to a week, depending on your temperature, depending where you are. Here, right here, Hawaiian Sanctuary, I would probably leave it 3 to 4 days. I put it out of direct sunlight. I put this like in my pantry where it's it's going to be nice and cool. And the fermentation process is going to occur. So what's in here is going to ferment. I'm going to then, after I let that fermentation process, which takes 3 to 4 days, I'm then going to pour it through a screen. So mosquito net is cheap to use as a screen. What I use is this bag here, and what I do is I take all the material here, dump it into this bag, suspend this bag up. I use the gravity pressure over the next 4 hours to drain into this bucket. I don't go and I don't squeeze it, because essentially the blood has come out. That's what the fermented plant juice is. It's that osmotically attracted blood. If I squeeze it, I'm going to squeeze the crap out of it.
Literally.
I don't want the crap, right?
Would a paint filter work for 5-gallon?
Paint strainer bags, excellent choice. This is a little bit more durable. Paint strainer bags, little less, but that's why I use the mosquito netting. It's even more durable. You can get it at a surplus store, and it's easy.
Can you read the plant material in my mouth?
So I'll answer that question. So I got my plant material still in this bag, right? I'm done. Now I got my juice in this bucket. Juice has come off. It's taken a couple hours to come out. Usually what I do is I put it in the first juice that comes out. I pour that into a jar so that way, and then I'll hang the bag for the next 4 hours, because a bunch will come out right at first, and then a bunch more will drip out over the long run. I got my juice in this bucket. I'm now going to pour that into a jar. So I put my juice into this jar. Say I have this much juice come out, which is 600 liters, something, or 600 milliliters.
About a third.
Yeah. Say I have this much juice come out, which I probably get a little bit more out of here. It depends on your plant material for how much you're going to render. Each one is different. But say I get this much. The next step is preservation. So I can either take this as is, this is a pour off straight, and I can put this in the fridge. If I don't have a fridge at my farm, or I just want to keep it on the countertop, I can then super saturate it with sugar, which means I'm going to take this volume and figure out, okay, that's 600, so I'm going to mark the jar at 1200 milliliters, and I'm going to add brown sugar until it goes up to 1200 milliliters. I've added equal volume of brown sugar to this. What that does is every water molecule that's in here is now bound with a sugar molecule. If I'm living in here and I try to drink some water, I also drink the sugar, and you become so thirsty, you go to sleep. So it's a preservation technique done with sugar so that the microbes can no longer proliferate. That's called arresting fermentation. There are other ways to do this, but this method of arresting fermentation, super saturation with sugar, enables me so that now when I dilute it later, the sugar is a resource. Had I added in some other preservative that might have been a poison, now I go to dilute it, now I'm putting poisons out. Now I'm taking it as medicine, I'm getting that poison. Sugar is good for you, it's good for your plants, it's good for our environment. You preserve with sugar, it's going to be awesome out there. It's going to be so don't think, oh, it's so expensive to add this extra sugar, it's going to pay you back later. It's going to enhance your biological system later. It's just a temporary storage. I like to refer to this as the Han Solo and carbonite.
Well, that's only if you have a refrigerator, right?
If you have a fridge and you have enough space, put it in your fridge.
How long will it last in the fridge?
Shelf life on this is about 2 years. If you keep it in your fridge, it'll last as long as you can keep the fridge up and keep your fridge at that low temperature.
You seal it or leave the oil?
Once I have completely super saturated it, you heard that? Anyone hear that off gas? Once I've completely super saturated, I've slowed down fermentation to be like Han Solo and carbonite. He's not moving very fast, but all matter in our universe is moving. Even if you think it's completely still, it's all moving. And I can never completely stop it. But I can seal it after I've super saturated. So after I've poured off, I've added my equal volume of sugar, I can now seal it.
Is there a temperature you want to keep that at in the fridge?
Standard fridge temperature is like 35 degrees Fahrenheit, I think.
Saturated with the sugar and the shelf life is 2 years.
Hey, I can't hear you.
Once you add the extra sugar, then the shelf life is 2 years?
Yes.
I understand.
Yes.
And if you didn't super saturate it, you have to use it quicker?
Yes, because so when you super saturate it, you arrest, you stop fermentation. If I did not add the extra sugar to preserve, and I didn't put it in the fridge, which is another preservation technique, then the microbes are going to continue to eat it. So this is like vital blood. This is like the stuff that microbes want. So they'll continue to eat it, and it's going to degrade my product. Where I had this really nice hormone that was all this complex looking thing, then they ate that and they broke it in half, and now I only got half of it. So it's going to degrade if you don't preserve it. If you do preserve it, it'll be fine and it'll stay.
If we're talking acreage amounts, and you've done this in a bucket, I mean, I understand it was probably ideal to store it in a glass jar. Can you store it in a food grade bucket?
Yes, yes. You don't want to, you as much as possible, you don't want to do this step in plastic fermentation, but storage is okay in plastic. But this stage, I would use something that's very high quality, because as they're digesting this material, they're also digesting part of the plastic. And we haven't been around long enough to understand the full effects of that. They're probably not health benefits.
So that Home Depot bucket, is that food grade?
No.
Like the white plastic ones?
It has to stay food grade.
It'll have to.
As much as possible, keep it food grade. You know, I see people in Africa using kerosene cans and stuff, and it's like, you know, use what makes sense to you and as high level your heart wants to be part of. Question?
Just an FYI, first, Walmart in the main department sells food grade buckets.
Cool. Cool.
And my question is when you first did the spraying, you said the original liquid came off quick, you simply poured it off. Did you use that liquid?
I preserved it. I preserve it almost all before I start using it. But I talked to...
You said originally, you said when you put the material into your spraying, your net of liquid came off, you poured that off and then let the net sit and pour the piece back, so you mix those two back together.
Yeah, I did at the end. Yeah, I recombine them at the end. It's just so like, because sometimes gnats and stuff will get in there, you know, it's just like if it's sitting out and, you know, like, it's, you know, it's attractive for insects and things like that. I just, you know, I pour it off fast, put it somewhere it's safe, and then it's like usually like my first grade and then my second grade, you know, A and B grade. So, question or anything?
Yes, so if you don't super saturate with the sugar, then that changes the volume. So does that change the dilute formula?
No. So the dilution formula doesn't change because the I don't really have a good answer for that of why it doesn't change, but it does not.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
How is that for a diabetic? All that sugar in there, is that?
So the question was, how is this for folks with diabetes? When you go to use these things, when we made our maintenance solution last week, we diluted this 1 to 500, which was 8 milliliters per gallon. If you are someone who has diabetes and you dilute it that ratio, it won't be enough sugar to stimulate you. It's so small, and the nutritional benefit that you get is gonna net benefit. Yes. But ask consult your doctor. I'm not promulgating anything. Just telling you what I know.
So used in that
So I've
dilution,
seen
it's
some
almost
videos where people
homeopathic
make
in
their
nature.
FPGA, they put like
Interesting.
a sugar cap on top before they put the breathable lid on. Is that just to kind of increase the osmotic pressure, or is that for stuff that like sweet potatoes where you don't get a lot of the liquid out of it right away?
Okay, so his question was, he saw that after this step, where I have this here, people would put a cap of sugar. That means they put about a 1/4 inch to an inch layer of sugar on there. And that is actually false and wrong. Don't do that. What that comes from is when you're fermenting fruits, ripe fruits. And I'm not going to speak about that here right now. So when you're doing plant material, that is incorrect.
Thank you.
I missed a piece of it because of noise. Is it either super saturated or refrigerated or both?
You can, both is ideal. You want this thing to last for kids in the 30th millennium, put super saturated and put it in the fridge. If if you're gonna consume it, you don't want that extra sugar for yourself, then just put it in the refrigerator. What I want to show you is this one here. So when I said equal parts sugar to super saturated, it's not, that's a shotgun approach. That will get you the right answer no matter what. But to be a more precision rifle shot, each plant material has a different amount of sugar that it's going to take in. So if I add equal parts, for sure I'm going to super saturate it, but do you see this line of sugar at the bottom of this jar?
Yeah.
What this is over saturation. So I know I've hit super saturation and then I've oversaturated because this fell out of solution. There's only so much sugar that can be dissolved with the water. And it's really important that you stir it really well. So you stir that sugar in really well in the preservation step. But if you do oversaturate, you will get this little ring. When you get to know a plant material, you will know how much sugar to add. And so if you got like a huge 1/4 inch ring at the bottom and you used that palm, next time add a 1/4 inch less sugar in. And you want to actually get it just so you got this little thing down here, so you know you hit exactly on to oversaturate just a tiny bit, but you don't want to be wasting a whole bunch of sugar at the bottom. So I just wanted to show you, this is one jar where this happened, this phenomenon happened. This is delicious fermented plant juice. It's almost gone. I've been drinking it.
So when you say to store in a cool place, that's a relative term. So you don't want it obviously in a closed up shed, but an open shed out of the sunlight or this out of tiny house.
Yeah, and
or under the house?
Under the house, and put in a box or a cardboard box. Or I'm storing these in clear jars, old wine bottles. They don't let light through. There's a reason they store them in those. Those are great storage solutions. Once you got it super saturated, you can take that cork and put it right in there, and then that's optimal, right? Friends come over, you pour them a glass of FPJ, they're all sitting around oh, this is delicious. You're like, yeah, it's 2006.
Super saturated in liquid or what? Powder?
Can you clarify that?
Oh, yeah. When you double sugar to the juice and you mix it together, does it go into liquid solution or does it stay like a granule?
It goes into the liquid. It should all be dissolved into the liquid. If you and when you're stirring it really well, it'll all be dissolved. It may settle out the next 12 hours, may settle out some out, and then you've oversaturated that amount that settles out.
It's a liquid.
Yes, it's a liquid. Yes. There's some telltales on how you're approaching oversaturation. If I'm feeding sugar in through the top and I'm stirring it and it's just sinking to the bottom real fast, I need more sugar. I keep going. If I'm adding sugar in and it's starting to float like an iceberg and then sinking slow like the Titanic, shut it. you're hitting super saturation. You're getting close. You're in that window. Don't add a whole more cup of sugar in. Start adding it real slow. Also, if you're stirring it in with a wooden spoon, the wooden spoon will start to float when you reach super saturation.
Oh, interesting.
Those are two telltales when you're reaching super saturation, so you don't completely super oversaturate. But your first time, do oversaturate so you know, and you'll be like, oh, okay, now I learned. That's what he was talking about. I totally wasted a bunch of sugar. But then take it out later and bake a cake with it.
So you can...
How important is the temperature during the fermentation stage?
So you want to keep it at room temperature wherever you are. You don't want to force this to go faster by heating it up, and you don't want to take this and put it in your fridge because it'll never happen.
Just regular room temperature fluctuations in the all that stuff is not going to keep you really.
Yep, and if you're from some place where it gets colder than Hawaii, it's going to take longer. There's tables on this, but also a sign when you're done of fermentation is you smell it, and it should have a slight alcohol smell. And then or if it starts to grow a little bit of Bacillus subtilis on the top, it's probably done too. But try to get it before those. Well, when the alcohol smell before the Bacillus subtilis grows, but it's not harmful. So a question in the way back.
Yeah.
Wait. Yep.
If I want to start over all my products and want to use my old ones for something, not to just throw them away, how do I use them? I have 5 jars with lots of stuff in them.
Okay.
There's some kind of little bit of settlement with some bloom in there, and they haven't been fully dark. They're under the house, but light doesn't hit them, but there is light.
I would say just dilute them heavily into a big bucket and scatter that out. Instead of trying to use this as a precision recipe, because your stuff is older and has sat for a while, it's similar to like stimulate a compost pile with it, or use it as a food, but don't try to use it as this medicine.
But I mean, let's say a half a gallon of juice. Do that in increments on a compost pile, or get a big truckload of mulch and put it on that?
Yeah. Try dilute it around the correct ratio, which is 1 to 500, and use it.
Balance it with calcium and phosphorus?
If you want.
Can I just do my garlic, my fruit, my fermented plant juice, and it doesn't have to be balanced?
So in this case where you're kind of recycling, it's a little different. Other cases I would say yes. In this case, just utilize it some way you feel appropriate. Because for me, if I don't know how the quality and how it was done the whole way through, I'm a little skeptical to tell you any. If I saw it and I tasted it and I was like, oh, okay, I could give you a real good indication, but I don't have enough information.
So once it's done, and this is the end product, you mentioned the moss. Is this what we put on our?
So we're gonna get to that spot. So today, remember last class we talked about the maintenance formula, which included OHN, BRV, and FPJ. So it included this. So today's goal was to show you that how to do this. So we're going to take a break in about 5 to 10 minutes. So yeah. So I got a question back here.
What about pH level monitoring? Do you recommend that, or do you do that at all?
So
kind of like with kombucha, you gotta control.
So the question is about pH monitoring. Should you check out any of that? The answer is no. These things tend to be acidic because you've added so much sugar. But you'll notice in our solution when we're using it, it includes brown rice vinegar, which acts as an alkalizing agent. So when you're using those two things in tandem and you're using them on your plants, you're not going to alter the pH in a detrimental way. Question?
Have you used cane grass tips?
Yes. So the question was, can you use cane grass tips, and are those nutrient rich? Yes. They're growing everywhere around here. If it's growing everywhere around here, that's what you want to use. Cane grass tips also tend to have silica in it. That's that glass that gets in your hand that sucks. That's silica. That's awesome. You want to ferment that. You want to get that out there. Silica helps water distribution. It also magnifies light. Some cool properties of silica.
You wear gloves then, because otherwise it gets all...
Yes, wear appropriate body armor.
With that, would you like go to the earth plants, like young sprouts coming up, and have maybe pops of like big stuff? I have a whole bunch of things that
Yeah, so again, so the question was which part of the cane grass to grab. Again, I'm gonna tell you, so on this squash that's growing, this part up here is going to be the awesome, dank, really good stuff. If I gather this whole thing, this is more just like a sandwich food that I don't care about the nutrition too much. So just discriminate on your own of which part you want to gather. So the inner, you'll notice the grass grows out from the inside, there's young stuff coming up. Sickle that out if you want this quality. Cut the whole thing down and do it if you want this quality. And there's other ways to do large quantities where you're talking about unless you're going to start marketing fermented plant juice made from that, you got to weigh your cost and balance of how much sugar you're going to ferment. There's cruder ways.
Fermentation process, would that kill off like that long?
Yes. So the question is, will the fermentation process kill off rat lung? Yes. The osmotic pressure kills the nematode, as well as the fermentation process. All those other microbes outcompete and actually eliminate it. It's just like bringing a bunch of good people in to clean up a beach. They're going to get rid of the rubbish. It's going to be great. Question.
What is the desired end result of fermentation? Are you just releasing the nutrients, or are you creating something from the sugar in the microorganisms? What is the end result of the fermentation?
So the question is, what is the end result of the fermentation? And you are getting not only the nutrients that are in the plant released and now made available so you can spray them on other plants, you're also getting the hormones and enzymes. So these are weird things like gibberellins and in scientific terms that I don't even keep fresh in my head to like spout out, but there are so many things in here. You get plant secondary metabolites, which are these really complex things, and you will never get those through any synthetic fertilizer because they're too complex for us to manufacture. So the plant has already manufactured it, you extract them intact, and then you put them over here. So
the same thing from just eating the plant material?
You don't get the same thing from just eating the plant material because your digestive system isn't designed for this. So this external stomach that I've created here is going to digest it better and give it to me in a form that's going to power me up. My digestion, it comes out as poop too fast. I don't get the goods out of it. I'm using acids to break it down. There's no acids put in here. My system is designed for different principles than what's happening right here. Question.
So if you're using this as medicine, is there so much as too much to use every day, or how much would you recommend to drink a day?
So the question is, if we're using this for human consumption, how much would I drink a day? I put it in my drinks, so I'll put some in like my coffee or tea in the morning to sweeten it. Then if it's super hot, I'll make a maintenance solution and drink that. And what I do is I dilute it to taste. So if you did the recommended dilution 1 to 500, you drink that and it would kind of taste like it's like tap water mixed with So I add it in to taste. I have no scientific evidence on what is too much, but so far so good. I drink it straight up, like just even concentrated, I'll drink it. It's fine.
Muscle testing is a really good thing to learn. Like comfrey, I know is really good for bones, and I have a broken leg, so I would just muscle test how much to use that day or that minute or that.
So one last thing before we take a break and we'll come back for the other spot is that think about what kind of plants you want to use. So what characteristic is there in this squash? Well, the thing grows really fast, right? It shoots across the yard, so it's a fast-growing thing. So if I take this and I get the hormones and enzymes that were making this plant do this characteristic, I keep them intact and I give them to this other plant that's maybe a slow-growing tree. Now those hormones and enzymes are going to be present, and the tree's going to be like, oh, cool, because I couldn't manufacture that, but now that it's here, I can use it. If you're using something that grows really nice root systems, such as the sweet potato, now you're getting those roots to transfer across to your other plant that you wanted to grow better roots. And so you're looking at the characteristics that you can translate across. And this is similar to choosing a different type of food. Like I eat dessert, I eat breakfast, I eat these different things, and I choose different meals to eat. It's similar to what fermented plant juice you're going to use to target those specific things. So I could eat dessert at every meal, so I could just use, like comfrey every time. I don't know why I picked that one as dessert, but you can balance them out to get these different characteristics and to get more holistic foods into your diet.
Does that mean you can mix them, or you should do them separately if you want to have different characteristics?
Once I'm done, this is super saturated, this is completely done. Now when I'm going to make my maintenance solution, I can mix 2 or 3 of them in my maintenance solution.
Equal parts.
So that I would, yeah. So of that dilution, say I was going to add in the 8 milliliters per gallon. I had 4 milliliters of the bamboo one that I made. I had 2 milliliters of the banana, and I had 2 milliliters of the comfrey. And so that way I'm mixing these things up in there, and I'm getting these diverse characteristics that are going to charge my plant up. But there's a whole thing, we'll go over a nutrient cycle. These are just think of them as different types of meals. We like to eat different things each time, but you potentially could live just off taro.
When you're actually making your solutions for comfrey, it's a leafy plant, would you use that on your leaf enhancement spray, or does that kind of matter?
Okay, hang on, I was completely not paying attention. Can you start over?
So something like comfrey where it's a leafy green, would you use that in the maintenance solution that's meant to bolster your leaf production? Or could you use that on, let's say, a fruit spray as well, where you're trying to focus more on that?
Yes, so I'm going to go through this in the nutrient cycle in depth of which one to use at which time. So for right now, this is because I'll address that. Okay.
Will you give the recipe for the OHN? I know the 5 herbs, but I don't know how much of what.
It's on the paper. It was on the paper, yeah.
So those, and not right now, I don't have time for that right now. I will try to fit that in as one of the things that I do here, talk about the OHN recipe. So I'll take 2 more questions.
I wasn't here last week. Is there a way to get that handout from last week? Is that available? Yeah.
There were some over here on the table.
From last week?
Last time.
They're gone.
I got one I can.
If you, yeah, also if you, well, yeah. So if someone else wants to help her out, that's the fermented plant juice.
Okay, my name
Okay,
is this strictly for edible plants that are edible in their raw state, or does it transform or render inert toxins in other ways to the process itself, like cyanide or something like that? I was thinking specifically of bamboo shoots that have cyanide in them, but certain types of fermentation can break down the cyanide.
Okay, so this is a great last question for this, and the question was, if my plant, for instance, concentrates cyanide in it, can I consume the fermented plant juice afterward? And the answer, the safe answer is no, because I don't want you to die because I said something. But the real answer is yes, because what happens during the fermentation, if you get a complete fermentation process happening, is those have been completely changed. So you can take something that was poisonous, because these microbes are digesting them, they're eating them and they're pooping it out. Like, it's going through their biological system, so they are dealing with the toxins in some way that if they didn't die, and then you're eating what they put out, you're not going to die. So it's a way of biologically purging it, but don't, use your discretion. Please don't just be like, we said we could do it, and then. So I'll handle any more questions when we come back from our break. So how long have we got? 10 minutes. 10-minute break. All right, give yourself a hand.
Yay.
Thank you. You guys enjoying so far?
Yeah.
Cool. So for me, this I've been studying Korean natural farming since 2008, so it's approximately 10 years. And every single time I do something like this, I learn more. It really, teaching to learn is a really good way. I get asked interesting questions and get to think about it in different ways, and it kind of pulls new information out. Like, as I'm sitting there listening to myself, I'm like, oh, that was good. So I appreciate it, and there's a classic thing. It's like, life is all about the basics, right? And this is some of the most fundamental, simple basics of what we're dealing with in life. And so they say, master the basics. Don't worry about advanced other stuff, because the other stuff will come once you've mastered the basics, and you'll find that there's so much depth in the most simple, mundane thing like fermented plant juice. We thought I could talk for at least an hour and a half or 2 hours, I don't know how long it was, 9, on fermented plant juice, right? And so, as an instructor here to get you this, I'm really stoked that we got this large of an audience, and to share, because, each of us has our own personal journey and story as we get to know these things, but I've been doing it for a while, and so I'm glad to share with you. So I got kind of 3 more things I wanted to cover on fermented plant juice before we move on to the moss. One of those is the taste. So some of you guys got to taste this the other day. I don't know if some of you got to taste it today. If anyone really does want to come taste it, you can after here. But it is important that you can eat all of your fermented plant juices. And this one here is good. It's still great. It's doing its thing, but I can taste that it actually needs a little bit more sugar put into it. The 2 things I'm looking for to not use fermented plant juice are if it tastes alcoholic, significantly alcoholic. You know that the microbes have continued to degrade your material. So if you've stored it for a while and you go to taste it and it tastes alcoholic, you know it's degraded. The other taste you're looking for to be a kind of warning sign is vinegar. So if I taste it and it tastes vinegary, that means it's degraded. What you're wanting to do is to freeze Han Solo and carbonite to arrest that fermentation intact, so that later when you defrost Han Solo, he can fight with the Force or love with the Force and defeat the Sarlacc. I know some of you are fans. And so you want to preserve it with that sugar, to freeze it. And what could be a better analogy than saying Han Solo and carbonite? Because what is brown sugar other than carbon? Well, it's hydrogen and oxygen, right? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Oh, isn't that Cho? Isn't that my master?
Oh my gosh.
So, sugar, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, but the carbonite, freezing things. Carbon is the neutral element in the universe. Everything smaller wants to get up to carbon, everything bigger wants to decay to become carbon. Carbon is solid structure, it's interlocking triangles. Triangles are the most stable shape we know of. That's why carbon helps and buffers and does all these wonderful things. So I can taste this needs a little bit more sugar in it. Although if you do taste it, it will make you thirsty. Your tongue will start to do some things and you'll have to borrow some tea from your mom. Keep hydrated. But it should create that phenomenon in your mouth. That same thirstiness you're getting is the same thirstiness that's going to keep the microbes from degrading your material. So, different fruits will taste differently, but they should all give you that same phenomenon that's happening. If anyone doesn't know what vinegar or alcohol tastes like, go to the store, buy some vinegar, buy some alcohol, taste them, and then you'll now tune your tongue. Your tongue is one of the most important tools that you have. It is more sensitive than the most advanced mass spectrometers that we use. So we try to find out elements and what's in this and that and use mass spectrometers in that way. Your tongue is more precise. The problem is we don't know how to tune it today. What does calcium taste like? What does phosphorus taste like? What does this or that taste like? You can detect it if you tune yourself. So it's a matter of tuning, practicing with your instruments, eating these different concentrations, figuring out what they do, and then you can be more precise than a scientific analysis that you send away to some fancy machine. Your body is a sweet, sweet scientific laboratory.
So are you saying that if it does start to taste degraded and it tastes like vinegar or alcohol, then we can redeem it by adding more sugar?
No, this one does not taste like vinegar or alcohol yet. And I'm going to add a little bit more sugar because I can see the way it's like bubbling in this, and it's still more active than I would like. And it's probably because this is my traveling fermented plant juice. So when I travel around and I'm exposing it to heat and all these different things, it's freaking out. So the microbes are acting up, they're a little more hungry, and they're eating it. If I was storing it properly in a cool spot without shaking it up and all that, it probably wouldn't be as active. But because I'm stimulating them, they're eating a bit more. If you've gone past and you already have vinegar or alcohol, just use it for something like, your neighbor's yard or something.
Water it down and water your grass with it?
Yeah, or water your lawn.
Or make a cocktail or add it to a salad dressing?
Yeah. There's a myriad of things to do. So the next part, so I got two more things on this. So the next is, we had our fermented plant juice, that was here. We still have our solids in this bag, right? We still haven't dealt with these. Are these useful?
Yeah. Why not?
You bet so. There was a question, can I eat this? This is like eating the sauerkraut, right? It's sugary. Watch how much sugar you're intaking. You can turn this into a very superior product that we use a lot of in natural farming, and that is vinegar. So, if I have yay much material left, and I put it into my bucket now, my bucket's clean, I poured this off, I'm now taking this material and I empty it into my bucket. Now I have it here. And I notice, oh, what fills up this much of my bucket? I can now take that much material in the bottom, I can refill it with water 1 time, 2 times. So twice as much water as I had volume of material. And if I got some live vinegar, pour a tiny bit of live vinegar. If I have a mother of vinegar, a SCOBY of mother of vinegar, I can put that in there. Put a breathable lid. Set it somewhere out of sight, out of mind, where it's cool for 3 to 4 months. Come back, I now got vinegar. So you can take that waste material, double the amount of water, leave it for 3 to 4 months. It's quicker if you stimulate it by adding a little active vinegar in, or a mother. But those will naturally come out of the air and start growing. They're everywhere. And this will now turn into vinegar. What is this vinegar useful for? Dissolving things.
It's either vinegar or the mother?
Live vinegar. You don't want pasteurized vinegar.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So you would then have comfrey vinegar.
Yes. Comfrey vinegar is useful for making other natural farming inputs. It is not, however, a substitute for brown rice vinegar. It is not. So don't think, oh, I made comfrey vinegar, I'm just going to substitute this. This does not have the same properties I talked about last time. However, vinegar is useful. You want to make this one, do the same fermented plant juice recipe I just talked about, but use bananas. Ripe bananas.
Okay.
Do that recipe now. Your banana waste goes back in here. You got your banana fermented fruit juice out here. Now you got banana vinegar. That's this.
It says brown rice.
We need to make that with.
Yeah, this is brown rice, but it's the equivalent of this. It's equivalent. In terms of how we're going to use it in the maintenance solution. So I can make my own vinegar really inexpensively. We always got bananas going off, right? In almost everybody, when a banana rack goes off, you got more than you can deal with, right? Now you got a use for it. You're going to be making vinegar. You don't have to go through the whole fermented plant juice recipe and pour this off. You can follow it, the recipe, and then just fill it with twice as much water. Because it's going to ferment in those 3 months and it's going to do this anyway. But if you want to pour this off and then use the leftovers, then you're getting twice your value out of it.
Sweet.
And that's with ripened bananas?
Ripe bananas.
Ripe bananas?
Yep. Yep. Peel and everything. Yep.
What if there's maggots?
Close your eyes.
They'll die.
You know, all kinds of weird maggots live in my vinegar solution sometimes when I'm making them. If you're going to make food grade, seal it with something, you know, do it real clean. If you're going to make farm grade, it's like, there's black soldier flies and stuff swimming, like, you know, they're some maggots, you know, grubs.
Is the sweet brown rice vinegar the same as what you were using?
Here?
Yeah, I saw some in the store, and it was sweet brown rice vinegar.
Be very discriminating when you go to buy stuff. A lot of things are just whatever vinegar with flavors added to it and stuff. Master Cho was actually very, he used to recommend a certain brand of vinegar in Hawaii, and then he tasted it, he's like, no, they changed their recipe, they're actually doing something different now. And so this is the brand he recommends. It's called blah blah blah. This I got at Kilauea Market. However, what we are doing is we're working with our supply co-op to bring in large drums of this stuff so that we can get it to you in an affordable price. Because this here is like super food grade. A case of this costs like $75, $80, something like that. But however, as we now have more people, we brought in our OHN supplies, we're getting the co-op so that we can start to make this work for all of us. Because, you know, we buy in bulk, it reduces the price. So that's where we're headed with that. So the vinegar, again, you just strain it off through a screen when you're done with it, and you can taste it. You may also want to measure the pH with a pH strip to make sure it's at the right acidity that you require for what you're doing. I don't have any data on what pH it should be. I just taste it and I'm like, oh, cool. And I don't know, I haven't calibrated my pH scale yet. But I'm sure I could tell. So a question in the back?
You mentioned you don't use the brown rice or banana vinegar for the same uses as your leftover fermented plant vinegar, and what are the different uses again?
So I'll get to those other uses later in the class for what those are. Yeah, so question over here.
Yeah, I made some fish emulsion once, and I used my weed, and then I added the inoculant like that, and then would that be a way that I would do that, use that waste as well, possibly?
No, you don't make vinegar out of fish. I don't even think it'll work. Yeah. The fish stuff, the fish waste was left over, bury it, and then bury it like this deep. Well, out here, bury it this deep. put it on the ground. Throw a bunch of mulch, so you got mulch coming out this high, and then plant your plants on top of that, and then the plant roots will go down to get the fish waste, and that whole system will really like it.
Yeah, I used unsulfured molasses. It was a recipe I was given by the guy that makes the fish emulsion. So I do it with the weeds like that. But it seems so similar, I thought.
Yeah, no, different things. So, yeah. Question.
This is kind of going back a little bit, but using allelopathic plants to make FPJ, like...
Can you speak up a little bit?
So using allelopathic plants, like hickory grass or strawberry guava to make FPJ, how would that work? You know, like with allelopathic, they maybe grow up with other plants, you know?
I don't know. I make FPJ. I made FPJ from guava tips. Worked just fine. Plus, it's super tasty. It's actually tastier than the fruits. The leaf tips tasted better.
Wow.
Question?
I ended up with an extra sheet from last week if anyone needs one.
Okay. So the last little bit of this was asking about the application. On your sheet there, it says an application. This is an older sheet, and I no longer put applications on individual solutions, because what I want instead you to do is to make the maintenance formula, the maintenance solution. Because using these in isolation, I found as we are practically practicing this, you want to use the maintenance formula. So where the dilutions are there, you can see, but my new learning material, I've been erasing that off. This sheet's probably a couple years old, so I just haven't updated this one. If you understand that it's the food, there's a reason it's in the maintenance solution, you understand this. That's where, you know, like, as level 1, you shouldn't really mess with this kind of stuff, but as you get more experienced in natural farming, you will learn how to adjust these recipes. But initially, I'm just giving you, like, straight up, like, use this maintenance formula, go for it, it'll work. Like I said, the biggest thing we're doing is tuning our human machines, our observation, our loops. And so starting to play the basic song, then you can improvise later. That's kind of universal principles.
I was wondering, the cow
If you wanted to use like the husks of the cacao, would it be any good, or without the seed?
The shells.
So if you're talking, so the question was, can you use the husk of the cacao? You could, you can. Again, you wanna, it depends. If you're just making a general food, then that's probably okay. If you're trying to make it medicinal value, probably not. A lot of times what I do is when I'm peeling a whole bunch of bananas and I got a bunch of banana peels left over, I'll make a fermented plant juice out of just the peels kind of stuff and utilize these types of resources that way. It all depends. So, and I want to also remind you right now, I'm teaching you like the top shelf way to do this, because I believe learning that way is the best way. There are other ways to do this, but this way is the best way, from my opinion of what I'm sharing and the reasons that I've almost exhaustively gone over.
Could you explain a little bit more in detail the medicinal values that it has on the human body for consuming?
Okay, so the question was about the medicinal values on a human body for consuming these things. So the basic general purpose is that it's bioavailable. It's digested in this jar, so I don't have to do any of the digestion. It's immediately available to me. And it's done without heat or pressure, so all the things are intact. Not only the nutrients, but also the plant's secondary metabolites and things that we haven't even scientifically discovered yet are intact. So you can get really interesting compounds happening. And the third thing is that you can ferment things we don't even know the medicinal value of. So what is the medicinal value of the tea leaf? I don't know. We don't usually eat that, but it's awesome. And so you can get these things that are exotic medicines. You know, pick your favorite healing plant. I know everyone's thinking one.
Jeez, I got 7 of them.
Ferment the trim from your 7 plants. Make this. Now you got a fermented plant juice. I was talking to my friend about cannabis, hemp, and he was saying the best way to eat that medicine is actually by juicing it. So putting in a juicer and juicing it, and that's the most medicinal way to deliver it. It's not as fun, but it's the most medicinal way. This is a level up. You're not juicing it, you're not getting all the crap, you're just getting the essence of it.
But who's going to take the tips off of that favorite plant to make it?
So like I was saying, take the whole thing, well, people are taking off the tips, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying, but they're not making FPJ with it.
You could start a whole new.
To get the microbiome for a plant, to use the mother plant. So if you were growing your favorite perennial or your favorite plant or whatever, you come to harvest and then you make the rest of the body into FPJ, and then you could use that on that plant probably really well because it's got like everything that needs, right?
So the comment is that if you're using the fermented plant juice from, say, a banana, and you're spraying it back on a banana, isn't that awesome?
Right.
And the answer is absolutely, because what did the banana need? Well, everything that was in the banana. And so when you use its own crop on its own crop, you're magnifying that ability for that to have exact nutritional profile that it's already desiring. So we're going to start fermenting babies, right?
Oh my God. But what if your prior crop had a disease?
So the question is, what if my prior crop had a disease? Notice when I made this fermented plant juice, I got rid of the diseased-looking ones. Didn't use that. You don't want to do that. But majority of the disease is neutralized through the fermentation step. But, you know, they say garbage in, garbage out. So think about that. Start, you know, for what you're using it for, think about it. Question?
In the case of spraying it back on the same plant, like your hypothetical case with banana, would it be okay to take the bananas and the leaves and make them epidemic?
So primarily when I'm talking, yes, it would, and we'll get into that in the nutritional cycle of which part of the plant am I using.
Could you use seaweed for this process?
Seaweed is very difficult to do this with because it's already so wet. So you can do it. People have done it. They've used dulse and whatever, then they made kelp ferments and stuff. But I personally, I don't have enough time to go gather enough seaweed to do this. Plus, I believe the ocean needs to be left alone. But that's me. So.
Seaweed that is on the shore after it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's like saying using a tree that's already fallen. Like,
It's been in the sun.
yeah, so there's the reason I'm, there's certain reasons. So I know each and every one of you is a smart, deductive, awesome, great observer that's going to really find your ways to like make these small customizations. And if everyone understands the common denominator of what I'm teaching, you are going to make a phenomenal natural farmer because all of us have our own ideas on how to do this. Seaweed, awesome. Whatever we're going to do. And by tasting and opening up that observation loop, you'll figure it out. Did I feel better after I drank this?
Well, HON is better done from fresh plant?
That is a completely different recipe.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So any further little bits on fermented plant juice?
Would it impact the bug population, like kind of mites and some of my flowers and aphids or whatever?
Okay, so when you're going to use it, you're going to use it as a maintenance solution. That should help reduce bug population. However, if you have a lot of bugs, use this less. You don't want to put a whole bunch of food in a situation that's already compromised. So if I have some other solutions that will help you get the plant robust, but it's like you don't want to throw a bunch of food in an environment that's already compromised. So there's other ways to balance that out first and then bring the food in. So you get it back to health, and then you start bringing the foods in.
So like in the garden, could you put it on the soil before you seed or starts there?
So we will talk about how to do a garden coming up.
Okay.
And gotta keep some suspense.
Do you put cloth over it, or do you put just after it's done?
So once you've super saturated it, putting a sealed lid on is okay. Be careful in the very beginning when you're first doing this. It creates a lot of gas. I've had glass jars detonate and it looked like someone threw a grenade. Literally glass shards stuck in the wall kind of stuff. So be careful when you're sealing these things shut. And also be careful if you're pouring from one container to another. It like reactivates it, and then now, so just anytime you're moving around, breathable lid is best. But sealed lid for situations you need a sealed lid. But be very careful. A lot of pressure can build up in here.
Space and time in between the time they put the sugar in. Just put the sugar in and crank the lid out.
No. Yeah. Wait. Give it a little, like at least 12 hours or something before you really crank the lid on it, because it's still, they're gonna start eating that sugar and reach some homeostatic console and carbonite.
I got some OHN ingredients on the last few days of ferment, but I gotta leave town for like a week next week, so like they're just using this at TJ and not start a tincture, or so I won't be around to stir it every day.
No, put the vodka in and then just leave it without stirring it, because you got to get through that first part. Otherwise, it'll rot.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't know if this is helpful, but there is a thing called an easy cap mint for like home brewing, and it fits a 2-liter, plastic bottle, but there must be glass bottles, and it's got a little membrane in the top, so it lets it off gas. So as a storage thing, rather than an open, paper towel kind of a thing, that might be something to look into.
So she's mentioning that there are lids that will off-gas for you that fermenters use. Once you've done and you're storing it now, then use one of those types of lids. Do not use that type of lid during this stage, and you should be good, and that will help you keep things from exploding in your house. But you don't have to be very afraid. Just a word of warning. I'm not telling you it's gonna explode. It's not that dangerous.
So Drake, if you're not super saturated and you just put it in the refrigerator, do you put the lid on tight or do you put it on
Don't super crank it down at first. I mean, give it a couple days to reach its new environment. Yeah. So the fourth medical benefit is that these things are alive. There's microbes, it's living, it hasn't been pasteurized. You're not just drinking corpses of something, you're actually drinking living beings. And I tend to use this as a food, right? But it's also, a small sense of it is a microbial inoculant. I don't often talk about that because we have other ones that are much more powerful, but it is alive, it is living, and it is a microbial inoculant. So living medicines, that's about it. So, awesome, cool. So I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here and go into writing a formula up here. And some of this formula is going to be a little bit of a unknown, but don't worry. We're going to get through all this. We're going to cover it all. So, just bear with me.
So, real quick, you put it in the fridge and then the power goes out or you have to take it out or whatever, is it still just as good and great for 2 years or I guess you would sugar it and then it would be okay?
Yeah.
If it's in the fridge, is that compromising anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's think of it as a living being. You don't want to have it die on you. So yeah, and I recommend saturating them anyway, super saturating them. So let's see here. So I wrote this formula down because I don't necessarily memorize this one. Okay, awesome. So this recipe that I just put up here, this is Master Cho's formulation for taking care of the moss that grows on our trees. So Master Cho came to one of our farms and we were collecting an IMO box, and he just like looked up at this tree and then he just started talking about this. And I actually went to a thing way back in like 2008 where we did this formula together, and we were up in Wainaku, or Kaiviki actually, and there was some moss growing on a palm tree, and he was looking at that and he's like, what, like why are you, what's up with this? And so what happens when the moss is growing on the tree is it's like a skin disease. And so the plant has this skin disease and it starts to hold moisture against it, and it starts to rot and decompose the tree. Also, there's like green mosses that'll grow on the tree and they'll consume the oxygen through the bark. And so your tree is then suffocating. So then the tree starts to drop more leaves because it can't breathe as much, so it drops leaves. Then your tree starts getting sunburn, and your tree is really upset then. And so this is like a common case, especially here in Hawaii, because it's so wet, that we have moss growing on our trees. But primarily what it is it is a mineral deficiency in the bark of the tree. And that then triggers this moss to grow because it's trying to actually produce those minerals using sunlight, and it's trying to actually help the tree, but it's not doing it well enough that we really need to address the problem at the root or on the surface, and that's what we're going to do here. So the main thing that we are using here is sea salt. So how many people go out and put salt in their yard? Alright, we got some forward thinkers.
Slugs, snails.
So what I have in this bag is a thing of sea salt. This is pretty inexpensive, and it's a lot lighter than the ocean because all the water's been evaporated out. If I want to make this back into seawater, I put salt to sea. It's 35 grams per liter. So if I put 35 grams per liter and then I mix that into fresh water, I've now reconstituted seawater. What usually we want to do in natural farming is use it around 1 to 30, which makes it really easy because I divide this by 30 and I keep the liter the same because I have 1 to 30 dilution. And that gives me approximately 1 gram per liter. And that's typically the dilution we're using in natural farming. So I just measure 1 gram of sea salt per liter of water. So that's 4 grams per gallon.
If we were doing English, would that be roughly an ounce per quart?
I don't work with ounces, sorry. I work in milliliters, gallons, and liters.
And also, if you're located next to the seashore, is there any kind of condition that needs to be taken into account for air that would be carrying saline air?
Yep, you're lucky you get sea spray all the time. You probably don't have as much moss on your trees. You do? Okay. then you need your aspect that you're missing is this one.
What about using seawater?
If I use just seawater, awesome. It's heavy, you can do it. I'm just saying, for me, I use sea salt. If you can go get seawater, you also get the living organisms in there, and you just take 1 gallon of seawater and add it to 20 gallons of water. It's a 1 to 20 dilution. You can scale that up and down however you do it. 1 ounce to 20 ounces, you're still in the same ratio. As long as your unit's the same, you can dilute it.
Is this all like for foliars, right?
So we'll get to that in terms of this. So this formula up here, it's remineralizing here, and that's one of the main things we're doing. We're also including a lot of 3-letter acronyms, TLAs. The one up here will be next week's subject. This is IMO 4. So it's Indigenous Micro Organisms that have been gone through 4 generations in a very specific way. And I have it right here. This is a liquid version of it. See how it's cloudy and it got some stuff in there? This I made liquid IMO 4. The next one up here is WCP. It's water-soluble calcium phosphate. And we'll be going over that when we do the nutritional cycle, and I have it right here. So this is where I'm asking you to take a little leaps with me, because I haven't fully outlined what these are yet. We're getting into this solution, so just right now they can be a mystery things that we're adding. The next one is sea salt. We all know about that. I just talked about how to reconstitute it if you can't get access, or if you just go down to the ocean, you can dilute it in this ratio. Right here for this recipe. The next thing up here is OHN, just the Oriental Herbal Nutrient that we talked about last time. We're adding this as a nutrient stimulator, digestive aid to help all this stuff be absorbed. And we're adding brown rice vinegar as well to help this system. You'll notice in this recipe where it differs from the maintenance solution is there is no FPJ. Why is there no FPJ? It has to do with that question that was just asked correctly. I do not want to feed it. So in this case where I'm dealing with this problem on the bark, I omit the FPJ. The other thing that's up here is this Loess powder. Now this, if you go to the Loess Plateau in China, I'm sure it's everywhere. But what it is, dirt. Red dirt, but it's gone through a special process. The majority of red dirt I would take and it would just crumble. This stuff, it is hard, kind of like clayish to break apart. What's happened is this dirt has been taken into the water, stirred it around in a really flat, shallow dish in the shade, and I let it settle. And when it settles, it changes the magnetic properties of how it aligns, and that's what makes it stiff and like clay-like. You ever seen a mud puddle that's real shallow that dries up and you get those little flakes that'll kind of stand up and it looks like droughty conditions? That's Loess powder. That stuff is this right here. Yes, I made this. So I took red dirt. I live in red dirt. That's what's under me. And it's really lacks nutrients, but you can put a shovel in it. And I settled this out in the shade, and I got a whole bunch of chunks. This Loess powder acts as a magnetic sticker. When I put this on, the way it sticks to the plant, it changes like the magnetic properties, which changes how all the IMOs and all these nutrients stick to the thing.
Using my brain?
Yep. So we're just going to treat the tree for a couple weeks to get rid of this problem. So it's not like you have to do this all the time.
Does it have to be red dirt or can it be any dirt?
Red dirt is the easiest to work with. I don't know about other dirts.
Does most tend to have a specific pH?
I don't know.
Put them that dries like that on top, or does it have to be near me?
I would make this yourself if you wanted to use this stuff. It's pretty easy to make. And it's, it's deficient in organic matter. So, what I'm going to do is create this solution here. I just kind of explained the different components that are going in. We're going to create this solution and then we're going to go spray it out on our lime trees and see how that works. So, can we get some water in this bucket? Oh, right there.
I like to make it as a side note that moss produces a lot of oxygen and you don't want it on the trees, but you can put it in your house and it'll actually dehumidify your house because it doesn't tolerate too much humidity, but it can handle damp and shady areas. So and it loves buttermilk. I've been researching it with my friend. The term monster, he's thinking about hanging it in his house and moss. And so you can limit it with proper amount of buttermilk. You don't know what's wrong on something that grows roots.
How many more are you adding to that?
Something you can inside on the ground and shoot it up. I don't like it. No. It makes it look like a giant.
Does anyone have a spoon? What? I bet you they got a spoon inside there.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and moss is one of the original microorganisms or actually it's between like a plant and a microbe. It's making partnerships between things. So it's like lichens are photosynthetic bacteria and a fungus that are making a partnership. So they are more complex microbes. And you'll notice like they say, yeah, awesome, perfect. So you'll notice moss grows on very toxic things. It's trying to heal the earth. It's trying to, it was one of the first plants when the earth had all kinds of chemicals coming out. And then, and so that's why we started with moss and now we got more complex plants. So I'm hoping that water gets up here pretty soon. So one reason I'm waiting for the water, I'm going to do it just in this jar, is that you don't want to just add these ingredients together without having them go into a liquid form. So, yeah, there it is actually. We'll use that. So, our maintenance formula, we mixed in concentrates that didn't have any life in it besides the tiny bits of microbes. This, however, is full of life, and if I mix this with vinegar, I'm going to really mess my stuff up. So what this is essentially, let's measure this out and see. Oh, it's lunchtime already? Alright, so we'll do this quick. This is 300 milliliters. And I kind of just approximated on how much I thought I would need. But 300 milliliters going into what we'll call 3 gallons. And so we'll get way more into the microbes and how to dilute and make all those. I'm just going to add this life in here for now. I'm going to add my calcium phosphate.
And Drake, do you want a syringe? Here. Drake. Yeah, I carry them in my purse.
So 1 to 1,000 into 3 gallons. Someone want to calculate that? Or I can pull up my sweet little app.
Oh, yeah.
And I get the app here and I say, well, I want to dilute 3 gallons, calculate. And it tells me I should add 11 milliliters. So.
Do you have to use liquid IMO for?
Nope, we'll talk a whole lot more about that later. So, Calphos, now my seawater. I told you this grams ratio. Also, what it turns out is about, for us, it's about that much, half tablespoonful per gallon to hit that same dilution. Seawater, I don't have to be right on the money because seawater varies in salinity from location to location. So 3 gallons, 3 half spoonfuls.
That's
Is
a
a tablespoon? Or tablespoon?
That's a teaspoon.
That's a tablespoon.
This is a tablespoon.
Oh, tablespoon, sorry. Soup spoon, yeah.
Tablespoon.
Soup spoon.
So half a tablespoon is what I use. Yeah. And you can again get out a scale and measure it by grams. You don't want to be super precise, but the C ain't that precise. It's different from place to place. So I got my IMO, I got my Calphos, I got my seawater. I'm going to add in my OHN 1 to 1,000. Again, that's 11 milliliters, which I'm going to do this way through this glass because I don't want to stick this in here. So I recommend you use something like shot glass to measure. And then we got our VRV 1 to 500, so I can double that.
Was that one shot glass? I'm sorry, I turned away.
Nope, that was 11 milliliters.
11 milliliters.
And this here, 22.
That's so amazing.
Now I got all that in there, and so now I'm going to take my loose powder and just kind of grind it up and put it in. And even though I'm like re-liquefying it after I dried it out, the magnetic properties still are present in here. And ideally you'd put this in like a coffee grinder or something to make a super fine powder out of it. I'm really not going to do that good of a job here right now, just because but you can see it's starting to kind of cloud into there. And by you can see, I mean my mom can see. But I will bring this by and you can all kind of check this out. So it's kind of a little bit cloudy, and that's what's happened. So
That's right.
about the size of a quarter, and it's supposed to be about 3% of this stuff. So you could calculate all that out if you wanted. I just put in about yay much. That's what I put in right now. I don't know. It's probably less than 3% right now. But I'm going to do this to start. And since this was 1 to 20 instead of 1 to 30, I'm going to add 1 extra spoonful and be right in my window there to make it a little bit more potent than usual. And now all my ratios are within that much. And I'm learning a lot more to be a lot more precise. I used to just kind of be way even more whimsical than this, but I'm really pretty on target here. And so give it a good start. I get the salt in, and then we'll go spray the trees out there. So any questions on this mixture before we head out there?
Did you start with 3 gallons of water, or did you just fill it up to 3 gallons after you get on?
No, there's 3 gallons of water to start. I want to add the stuff to water. Yep.
But if you don't have the loose powder, will it still work? Or will it just not stick as well?
What you can substitute loose powder is for fine rock dust.
Fine rock dust.
Like crushed rock. Fine rock dust.
Like the blue rock?
Yeah.
What about bentonite clay?
I think also, yeah. No.
It's gonna be pricey.
Greg, the IMO 4, was that also 1 to 1,000 on the chart effect?
What this is, I'm gonna go into a lot more into this, but essentially it was way more than that. I put in 300 milliliters, which yeah, I don't know. So I'll cover a lot more on IMO next time. I knew this was like the right amount to put in, so I'll go into detail on how to figure out those formulations next time. So we're really going to go in depth into microbes. Last question.
How many milliliters of the brown rice vinegar?
So I gave the formulas last time, so who can tell me how much goes into 1 gallon?
22 went into 3 gallons.
Should be almost
7,
8, right?
8.
Yeah. And when I use my calculator, it's slightly more accurate because there's somewhat of a small error between you saying 4 milliliters to a gallon, because there are not 4 liters in a gallon.
Right.
There's 3.776 or something like right in that range, and we don't have precision enough to go in to say, oh well, it's 3 1/4 milliliters. I can't measure that. I mean, I literally, it's not, so if you use the calculator, you're going to get more accuracy, but you're still within.
But it doesn't have IMO on it. The calculator. Doesn't have IMO.
This is this particular formula.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Can
So.
I add JS to that if I have some?
Yeah. I'll cover the microbes next time. Okay. So let's go out and let's spray, because that's what I really want to finish up and do. Learning these techniques really helped me because it got me into, back in tune with nature on its most basic level, and then to figure out how to integrate like technology into this system in the proper way is like, each person has their own way of doing that.
This whole setup going on for spraying.
Hand sprayer? Like a hand sprayer would work?
Okay.
Yeah.
Got a beach up while you're down there.
And so even the most ideal setup even for this power sprayer. So so we sprayed this last week, does anyone notice any difference in the plants at all? Do they look like they've changed since last week?
A lot brighter.
Yeah? So
Absolutely.
it is working, right? How's these flowers on this one? Got some new fruit coming out. The mildew still looks like it's pretty same, but maybe some new growth coming out. I don't know if that was here last week or I didn't fully look too close, but as we continue to treat these plants, continue to take these observations, because we'll be really working on these plants right here, so you get to see it firsthand of what's going on and how it all works. So
you don't want to like manually remove moss like this.
no. Yeah, it's like picking a scab. You don't want to just peel it off. We want to treat the deficiency underneath, so because the moss is providing a factor. It's not like it's parasitic on this tree. It's like, oh, you're hurting, I'm gonna come protect you. It's like putting a bandage over in a certain sense to protect it from like sunburn and these other aspects. And it's, if you look at this tree, there's not too much canopy. Like I bet you the spots that have the most moss are the parts that are being hit directly by the sun. So who wants to spray? Okay, so you guys can take turns.
I love your little gizmos. Oh my god.
Feel the moss.
We're gonna spray really lightly, right?
Yeah, I'll show you a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to spray.
Do you like a sprayer you recommend, like a good one? Like the pan?
No, I
Was first kick lap.
Good vibes.
Come on, good vibes.
Do you use an airless? Why not, right?
Not now. Afternoon. Later. Knob on the back adjusts the pressure. I want to keep it at 50 as This will be our for sure test street, so let's go through and see. You're just spraying specifically the moss? Trying to soak them off, soak them off. You want to soak it into the moss, because then the minerals and stuff are going to go into the tree through that interaction. Just hit the moss. Like, you want to soak this moss so that it's wet, and that's going to see what you want to do. Okay,
Tell him, this is so cool.
yeah.
I want one. Yeah.
Garden exchange, go for it. Garden exchange carries these. So we treated basically these 2 trees with this specific moss spray. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually make up a maintenance solution and treat the rest of the trees so that we can continue to make our observations. These ones were treated just like specifically with the moss spray though. So for you, when we're making our observations over these next couple weeks, to like see, I can't make up more moss solution right now because I didn't bring enough IMOs with me. So, but I think it makes more sense to do a maintenance spray on the others, and we'll kind of have these as our tests between to see.
So why spray in the afternoon?
Number of reasons, because the plant is just going into its growth at night. So if you give the nutrients then. Also, when you spray water on a tree and it evaporates, it cools it, and that can cause like almost like a fever in the trees and the plants because the sun's still out, right? If it's raining, they're blocked from the sun, and then it's raining, and so it doesn't cause that fever. Versus if you get it wet in the middle of the day, that evaporation causes interesting issues. There's a lot of different reasons.
Cool.
So we'll go mix up a little bit more maintenance solution and spray, and if you guys want to hang out for that, awesome. Otherwise, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for coming over here to check this out. It's really important that we see so that we know, right? So thank you.
Okay. Cool. Thank you very much.
So thanks for joining.
If you want, otherwise you can hang around for the last spray.
That's got enough.